Welcome to the Reseller Show with your hosts, Andy Lawrence and Kevin Blackburn.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Reseller Show, session number 11. My name's Andy Lawrence.
And my name's Kev Blackburn.
And as always, we're very happy to have you with us this evening for an action-packed reseller show, as always. Now, just want to say Happy New Year to everyone listening and watching on the replay. I hope you had a great Christmas and great New Year celebrations. I certainly did. And looking forward to getting cracking with 2019, aren't you, Kev?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I echo what you've just said. I hope everybody has had an amazing Christmas time, New Year time. It's a fantastic time of the year just to be really, really, optimistic about the future. It's a brand new year. Like, no matter what happened last year, it's a great time to go again and be optimistic and be inspired once more. So I'm super excited for the Reseller Show. I know it's one of my big goals this year, Andy, to do this every single week because I love to do this show. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. I missed it actually over the last few weeks that we've been off. I've enjoyed relaxing and eating too much and spending time with the family. I've definitely enjoyed it, but I must admit I got itching to get back to work again. I always do. There's only so much I can do before I'm ready to get going. I love this time of year. Apart from the weather, it's the best time of year for me. Really looking forward to 2019 and planning and looking back over what happened in 2018. I really enjoyed that process as well, trying to take away some learning ideas from what went well in 2018 and moving forward into 19. So I've enjoyed the process. Why don't we do this here, Kev? I certainly enjoyed looking back over 2018 and thinking about how that went. Have you got any sort of key takeaways from how things went for you last year and maybe some ideas of what you're going to bring into 2019 as some things you've learned from this year specifically, from this last year?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I was just saying just before we went on air to Andy that this past Christmas was actually just a really, really nice time for me to stop with the family and friends because for the last sort of 3 years I haven't done because building business and things. But this year was actually quite nice just to stop and just reflect on really what we've done, where we're at, ultimately where we want to go, how we want to live our life. And I think these types of questions to have, like, no matter what you manage to achieve in 2018, and there's going to be a lot of things that you achieve that you didn't achieve. But the truth is, like, you've most likely come a long way, whether you've just got started, whether you've just started and made your first bit of money online, whether you've ended up quitting your job or you've had record sales. Ultimately, it's just a great time to look back and go, wow, I really, really enjoyed that. And a standout for me, and I said this in one of my separate videos, is definitely that relationship build. I've met so many people in 2018. It's definitely up there. Like, I met you, Andy. The Reseller Show wasn't even, going back 12 months ago. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And it's all come from relationship build. It's all come from just being interested in other people's journeys and sharing and what works and what doesn't work and the challenges that we face and just being transparent with things. I think like, we're all on our individual paths. We're trying to navigate our way to build our own businesses to ultimately, live the life that you want to live, whether that is just have a little bit more time with your family, whether you want to have a multi-million pounds business per year, doesn't really matter. It's like we're all on our own individual journeys. And I just think that looking back over a year and just getting optimistic and thinking about what you want to do for that next year is really, really exciting. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really have. I've got a whole list of goals. I've got lots of things that I want to do for 2019. And it's just really, it's a great time for everybody. because it's just a fresh start to do something or anything, whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I know. This is something that I've been meaning to talk about on the show anyway, but I know that, better put my phone on silent while I think about it. It's probably a good idea, Andy. But in terms of books, I know that you're always interested in self-development and personal development, and I know that you read a lot, and I think it might be an idea to have a chat about what your favorite books are at the moment, or maybe one that you've read recently, and give a book recommendation, because that's how I get a lot of books to read. I usually listen to audiobooks. It's the way I manage to consume my media, but I always go on personal recommendations, and I've had some really good books to listen to in the last 6 months because that. So maybe we should cover a couple of our favorite books. Have you got some in mind, or do you need a moment?
No. I can. Here we go. Look, I'll share with you. I'll share with you guys a few my big recommendations, and this is just completely off the fly. We weren't even. I landed that one. This book here, and if you're listening to this back, I'm holding Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss, a great book. Highly recommend that you check out this book. Tim Ferriss is definitely a guy that introduced the world to this idea of, mini retirements, virtual assistant and things. And, if you haven't come across any of Tim Ferriss's work, which I'll be surprised if you haven't, do check out this book, because there's one particular chapter in this book that I wanted to highlight to specifically as you as well, Andy. And it's called 1,000 True Fans. And this 1,000 True Fans was basically about making a difference to people. Like we love to help people. We love to well, this is what we do this for. We do this in our spare time because we love it. And 1,000 True Fans, I mean, that's just the title of the chapter, but it's all basically about that, you can make a real difference to you don't need a million people. If there's just one person that you can help, then that's what it's all about. And back in 2016, when I first read this book, I was just starting my own brand, Life Success Engineer. And I read that and I was like, God, I just want to make a difference just to one person. And it really made me scale everything right back down to the single one person. So that's just a great little chapter there. There's this book here, Principles by Ray Dalio. Highly recommend this book. Really, really good. And then here's the 3 books that I highly recommend. This has to be on everybody's list. Number 1, Work the System by Sam Carpenter. This book absolutely changed the game on how I built my business in terms of if you don't know by now, my favorite word is systems. And I absolutely love splitting anything up into how do we systemize this? How do we automate this? And that was really from my electrical engineering background to come into entrepreneurship. That was really my first introduction to, okay, this is how we split things up. This is how we systemize businesses. And then my 2 favorite books lately, there's another one called Clockwork. Okay. Clockwork. I can't pronounce his last name, but if you check it out on the YouTube channel, you'll see it. It's like Mike, whatever that is, Michalowicz or something. Like same principle really about Clockwork. It's about designing your business to run itself. For me, if you don't know, I'm sure you guys do now by now, I love everything to do with automation and ultimately building the business the way that you want to live your life. So if you want to have some freedom, really, really good. And then a financial book called Profit First by the same author. Okay. So Profit First, what this is a big takeaway. It's an actual like a wealth building takeaway that's fundamental to yourself and your business. And it's about paying yourself first. It's about profit first. It's about a lot of people, and this is including myself, personally and business, we are very, very good at paying everybody first. You know, when I used to be an electrical engineer, I used to get paid on the 25th of every month, and on the 25th of every month, I'd pay everybody first. I'd pay, you know, mortgage and utilities and all the rest of it, and then whatever I had left over, that would be me. But it should be the other way around. It should be you pay yourself first, and what do you want? What percentage do you want to pay yourself first? And then you start to go down a whole list of, okay, I'd love to pay myself 30%, but maybe you have to earn more. Maybe you have to lower expenses. There's many questions that come from that. And profit first is the same thing, but in terms of business. So instead of us as business entrepreneurs, we're very, very good at paying everybody. Let's get employees in. Let's take care of everybody first. And then you just, you know, you're paying everybody more than you. Like, you're the owner of the business and everybody's getting paid more than you. So this is some strategies on how to rearrange that. So some real actionable steps on setting up bank accounts and moving money from bank accounts to different accounts, for tax purposes, for your own benefits, for your profit purposes. Really, really actionable book, especially for business, for sure. Okay,
sounds like a good one. Excellent. I've made some notes. I must admit, I've not checked out Tools for Titans. It's been on my sort of list of things to check out, and I've not read it. So definitely one to put on my list, I think, actually.
Definitely.
I've got a few here. In fact, one person that you put me onto, Kev, back in the summer, which I'm very glad, someone again that I've heard of, but I hadn't never any time to listen to, and that's Jim Rohn. And I went onto Audible and I downloaded. Let's have a look. What's it called here? Oh, it's called the Ultimate Jim Rohn Library, and that's on Audible, and that's got a lot. It's got over 10 hours worth of his speeches and some other audios that he's actually recorded for different publications, and that was fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed that, I must admit. And that, you know, that really sort of made sense when you listen to Jim Rohn. He really makes a lot of sense in terms of personal development. So if anyone hasn't listened to him, I definitely would give that a big go for sure. Really got a lot of takeaways. There's so much in there. I'm on my second listening, and I'll probably listen to it quite regularly, to be honest with you, because he's got so much wisdom there. I definitely would take away an awful lot. And for that reason, that probably made me pay attention to a lot more people. Tony Robbins obviously is connected with Jim Rohn, being Tony Robbins. Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' mentor back in the day, a long time ago. So I listened to a bit more of his stuff, and this might be one that you've also listened to already, Kev, or looked at, which is The Untethered Soul, which is Michael Singer.
Really good.
Yeah, he came on Tony Robbins' podcast, didn't he? That's how I heard about him, and he interviewed him, and that was a real opener. Very deep book, but a really
very deep.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm definitely going to have to listen to that one again, because there was so much in that, in terms of sort of self-awareness and sort of being able to observe your own personal emotions and the way your mind translate things. And there's so much in that, but really useful, actually, and a very practical book in terms of being able to translate some of the crazy thoughts that are going in and out of your head, and being able to step back and get a good view on why you think of things sometimes. And really good one.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a deeper book, but I think that is a really, really good book, that one, because a lot of people, and everybody does actually, we all have like fears of failures, we all have fears and things, and we all have this like second, it's like us, and then it's our body. Like, it's weird. Like it does go a bit deep, but you do have, like, we're talking right now, and at the same time, you've got this mind chatter that's going on, and you're analyzing things all the time. And I think that was a great. We're going to have to put some notes in the show notes to all this. I think we'll have links to everything for everybody to get back on, because definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. If you pick up even just one or two of those, it's definitely worth doing. I've certainly gonna get back to a few of those and check them out. But yeah, and if anyone else has got any recommendations that we haven't mentioned, maybe stick it in the chat box or in the comments under the YouTube video, or in the Reseller Show group. Always interested to hear people's recommendations. That's how I find the best books, is through recommendations.
Definitely.
So yeah, I definitely give those a go. Maybe I'll come up with a few more as well for other episodes, because I really enjoy chatting about this sort of stuff. Right, so let's have a bit of news, shall we? Because while we've been away, I'm pretty sure, yes, it was while we were away, we had some fairly big news actually from Amazon that cheered up everyone, which is very unusual, because usually when news comes out from Amazon, everyone cringes and goes, "Oh God, what are they going to do to us this time?" But yes, some pleasantly good news. Got a bit of a Christmas present from Amazon just before Christmas, when they declared that they would be abolishing the 6-month long-term storage fee, which is fantastic news. I think it was a bit of a stretch, to be honest with it. Obviously, they're not doing it to be nice. They're doing it because it made sense to their business. I don't know. Maybe they looked and decided that significantly less stock was being put into Amazon because of the shorter long-term storage fees. Now it was kicking in every 6 months, and maybe that was an issue. So, they've obviously, I don't know how they come to their, how they work things out sometimes, but they've decided that it's not working, and they wanted to abolish the 6-month storage fee. And it does make a massive difference, actually. It means, you can actually have a slightly more relaxed stock buying approach, knowing that you've got 12 months now rather than 6 months. And, maybe you might be able to buy a few more speculative items where you would normally say, no, that's definitely not going in. Or maybe you might give an extra few months to wait for the competition to go, maybe in future, and things like that. So, there's a lot more options. What did you think, Kev, when you heard that news? Were you pleased, as I was?
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, whenever I sometimes feel like whenever Amazon have some type of announcement or anything, you just can't help but think, hang on a minute, is there another type of agenda here? Are they doing something else?
Yeah.
You sort of feel like talking of hiring and outsourcing, you feel like you need your own lawyer to look through stuff. Like, have I read this right? Just to give you a bit of reassurance that there's no sudden encrypted message in there somewhere. But to tell you the truth, I glanced over it and I was like, oh, okay. And I've not really looked too deeply into it. But obviously, I think the last couple of years, in terms of the relationship that Amazon have had with sellers, they've squeezed us. Like they've made things more difficult. They've squeezed us in terms of fees. They've squeezed us in terms of making it harder to get ungated. They sometimes panic people with their emails and like, hang on a minute, what's that? You've just gated all toys. Like all these things that they do to shock us. Yeah. I'm quietly hoping in 2019 that they do something that is more in our favor. Like they give us more opportunity, and they give us more, instead of like year on year making things difficult. And I realize that, Amazon grows and they've got to look after their own interests and they've got to look after the customer. And I totally get all that. But at the same time, somebody somewhere in the Amazon universe, whether it's, Jeff himself or the senior management that he's got, the structure, whatever it is, someone has to recognize, yes, we've got these customers, but we've also got these third-party sellers. And like for us as a business to grow, yes, we want to grow our customer experience and everything that Amazon do amazingly well. But somebody has to have a brainstorm of how can we make it easier for sellers? How can we make it better for sellers? How can we, instead of squeezing everybody and instead of doing this, that, and the other, that makes things harder, how can we make it like if we thrive, they thrive? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does feel like over the years they've just been squeezing that little bit too much. Each time there's a bit more and there's a bit more. And I think this is a good sign. They've realized potentially they've gone too far and they've had to step back and go, okay, maybe we've gone too far this time. Because ultimately, if they make it too difficult, it's going to have a detrimental effect on their business ultimately. Because if people stop doing it, if third-party sellers say, I've had enough now, it's not worth my while, and they stop, they will lose a massive part of their business. And it is a massive part. So they've got to make sure it works for us, or else they will lose ultimately as a result of that. So I think that might have been some as part of the decision. I think they saw in their metrics somewhere it wasn't going as to plan after they put that squeeze on. I think a lot of people maybe started thinking that's too much for me, it's not going to work, or they sent less in or making less buying decisions because of this. Now they're only going to be sending in ones they're very confident with, and therefore maybe it made a big enough difference in the amount of stock people were sending in, and across the board that's going to be a reasonable chunk. And maybe they went back to the drawing board and said, we need to look at it because it's having a slowdown on the third party seller business maybe. So who knows?
Yeah. And who knows what's going to happen. I'm convinced, every year things do happen. There's going to be some things that roll out. Brexit, for example, that's going to have some type of impact, I'm sure. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that as well this year when it happens and we start to see the effects. And I know Amazon sent an email out about Brexit as well and how it may potentially affect their operations, because obviously they are multinational, they're everywhere. I am optimistic. I mean, I am optimistic. I think the message that I have, it hasn't changed really in terms of, it's a fantastic opportunity, Amazon. I feel like it's still a great opportunity for anybody to get started. But long term, you've got to do something that you're not solely reliant on Amazon. And I think I've always said that, even since the day I started and then I quit my job. I knew, you can't solely rely on them. The things may change. You've got to be in control somewhat. And I think as the year goes on, Andy, and as this show grows, the Reseller Show, we're going to talk all about how can you go from Amazon and then maybe start your own Shopify store? How can you go from Amazon and maybe start your own warehouse sale days or open days? How can you do these sort of things? And or Facebook marketplaces. And I think that's why the Reseller Show, that's why we didn't call it Amazon Show. We call it Reseller Show because of that reason, that Amazon's a great opportunity. eBay is a great opportunity. There's all these things that are great opportunity. And ultimately it's about taking advantage as much as possible. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've no particular affinity with any one platform. I have, it's whatever's working for me at any given time. I started out on eBay. I'm now mostly on Amazon, and that's because that's the best place for me to be in my business at the moment. And if that changes in 3 years' time and my business is on a different platform, then happy days. As long as it's a reasonably smooth transition and I can make it work, then I'm good with that. There'll always be opportunities for online sellers in my mind, and certainly Amazon's not going to go away anytime soon. But if there is more opportunities elsewhere, I'm going to be definitely looking at them and interested into where it's going to go. Yeah, but for the time being, definitely within Amazon, multi-platforms within Amazon. Like I've been talking recently, I'm definitely recommending not putting your eggs in one basket at the moment, and sort of finding other channels. If you're selling online arbitrage, perhaps look at retail arbitrage, look at wholesale, and look at other avenues. If you're already, add a few strings to your bow in case you never know what's going to happen. So definitely worth doing that whilst you're building your business. But I always say that with a caveat: don't get too distracted. Make sure you're building your core business, but look at add some time to look at add other strings to your bow, as you say, other marketplaces as well, because you never know what's going to happen. And building an overall business is better than building one particular part of it. It's just makes sense as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think there's very wise words. It's a fine balance between. It's one of those things that's difficult for us to navigate in terms of entrepreneurs and trying to build businesses. It's like, on one hand, you'll have the likes of me and you say, don't put all your eggs in one basket on Amazon, and you've got to diversify. But on the other hand, it's like, you've got to also don't lose distraction, and you've got to focus. You've got to build one thing at a time, and it's a fine balance, and it's not black and white, and it's not like. It's not like for 1 year solid you build Amazon and then 1 year solid you build away from Amazon. It's one of those things that it merges all into one, and there's no smooth. We've all seen the images of the entrepreneurship journey. It's a roller coaster. You're up and down. And ultimately you've got to navigate your way. All I would most likely say is, if you have not got started, if you're at like zero, or you've done limited work so far, then you've got to focus in one area to grow that. Like, whatever it is, like my response to anybody is always, the first goal has to be to free up your time in terms of your paid job. If somebody is working full time, that's the thing that's like ultimately taking a lot of your resource, which is time. So if you can focus on your side business, your side hustle, to try freeing you up from that, that'd be great. Like, because then that would free you up massively. Like, if you could get an extra 40, 50 hours a week because you've built the side business, that's freed you up huge. At that point there, then I don't think it's wrong to have that mindset of, okay, this is my primary business. I'm focused on Amazon, but I'm just, with this extra 40 hours now you've got, I'm using an hour a day. I'm using something just in case, and that's certainly what I did. I'm only telling you from personal experience. This is what I did in the January of 2016. I came out of my job and I allocated a period of time every day on a separate, trying to build something else.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. As you say, it's a personal thing, because it depends. If you're the type of person that can really give good attention to 2 or 3 things at once, happy days. If you struggle with focus, like I do, for example, then I tend to, when I get across something, I get into something, I like to focus as much as I can on one thing. And then I would say, okay, this one day a week, I will focus on something else. I'm not very good at spending 2 hours here, 2 hours there, and 2 hours here, because it probably take me half that 2 hour period to actually get my brain back into gear of what I was doing in the first place. So yeah, that's personal. That's just how I work. And if you can focus on a few things, great, but definitely make sure you've got your key focus. Don't be jumping around. Be sure if something's working for you, concentrate on that, but just be mindful of something else, and take an amount of time each week or each day, whatever suits you, and learn about it, educate yourself, read a book, take a course, watch some videos on YouTube, whatever it is, but get yourself, understand what that other process is, and maybe start playing with it, start building it, and start experimenting. But yeah, definitely good to have a couple of things on the back burner, because they may be useful to you later on if things change. But ultimately, things always change. That's the nature of the beast. Things always evolve, but generally they don't happen quick enough to make it a real issue. But yes, if you've got other irons in the fire and you're aware of different marketplaces, that will stand you in good stead in the future. So yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, you need like the best way I can probably describe it is, you need to have like the short term, like what your Amazon business or eBay business or whatever it is, the thing that's got you to where you are right now. You've maybe quit your job, you've maybe had a little bit of success. Keep doing what you're doing there, because that's giving you some results. But you also need to have a long-term strategy on how you're going to get to something that's in your control. Like, and the reality is, something that's in your control, your sole control, that's always going to take time to build. So the best way I can describe that is you get in front of Amazon's customers. That's like you're not doing an awful lot of work, because Amazon's just done 25 years worth of work for you to get involved in that. So you're taking advantage. So you need to build your own business, but that's going to take time as well. So like, let's say, for example, you have a long-term ambition to have your own store, your own website and things. That's going to take time to build. So what you could do, you could start to build communities online around your particular store. Let's say you're selling, I don't know, some niche type products, or your vintage, I don't know, something, or collector's items or whatever. It's going to take you some time to build up some type of store, some type of something that you control. Like, I'm not saying like Amazon control their site, they control your Seller Central, something that you control, maybe your own website, your own physical store, or something that you own. That's all going to take time. So it's a case of just trying to build that over time, and eventually it will get there. It will start to build, and all of a sudden you'll be like, wow, I'm getting more people in my website than I am maybe my Amazon site, and that's just the way it works, but it takes time.
Yeah. Well, that's why whenever people come and ask me, I want to start from scratch, and what do? I always steer them in the direction of online arbitrage, because it has such instant results. You can literally go to the shops, buy a product, press a few buttons on Amazon, and you're in business straight away. Retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, that's where I suggest that you can learn the ropes, you can learn and understand Amazon. If I suggested private label and you had to then spend the next 6 months understanding importation from China, product research, niche research, and then you then have to then go through designing a product and so on and so, there's a lot to do. You're not making any money. So obviously straight in with online arbitrage is the best way to do it. Learn how Amazon works. But if you are on the sidelines creating something with private label, developing your own brand, learning how that all works, happy days. You can spend 6 months learning how to develop and bring that in and play and test, and that makes absolute sense to me. But in the right order. What you don't want to be doing is not earning any money for 6 months while you're figuring stuff out. That's not the way around of doing it. But as you say, building your own website takes time to get there. To get Google to pay attention to you and to get them to start sending you business takes time, but you can do that if you've got other things on the go. So as long as you focus on the right amount of time to doing that, then it's definitely going to stand you good stead. And it's good because you should always be learning something else. It's always good to learn other aspects of your business as well. So definitely.
I mean, you're a great example of this, Andy. Really, I mean, you've built your online reselling business, and you've done that. That's been your foundation, eBay, Amazon, and at the same time, you've put energy into like wholesale help, for example. And it's not like you started that 10 years ago, or I think you started it. What was it? I don't know what year you started it, but it's been a number of years to get to that point. So and you've put a lot of energy into it. So I think that's ultimately what everybody needs to do.
Definitely. I mean, that was the path I chose. I think it's over about 13 odd years ago now that I actually put up the first video, which is ridiculous, but it was definitely an organic thing. I started posting videos on YouTube when YouTube was virtually new. It only just started. In fact, one of my first videos was on Google Video, which got discontinued and YouTube replaced it. But that was more of an organic thing. I didn't say, you know what, I'm going to add this I'm going to build a brand and add it to my my revenue streams. It was kind of a hobby. And then at the point that I started getting 30,000 views on my videos, I thought, okay, maybe I should pay attention to this because there's a lot of people that are looking for this information. I got loads of questions. So I thought, well, maybe I can help people. So that's it kind of developed like that. But definitely, if you can build a brand, if you can build a side project, whatever it is, then it's definitely going to be going to be, it makes sense, it always makes sense to have other avenues of income wherever that is, and whatever you're doing, for sure.
Let us know in the chat if you're watching this back. Let us know what some of your goals are for 2019, because I think it'd be very interesting for us all to know each other's goals, what we're up to. If you're listening to this back, let us know.
Yeah, let us know what your plans are. It's always inspiring to hear people's journey and what they've got planned. As always, if you have any questions, anyone in the chat that's joining us live, if anyone has any questions that's come up over the Christmas period, let us know. I think we had a question in the Reseller Show Facebook group over the break on New Year's Day from Simon. Actually, Simon Hetze's dropped a comment, and he was asking about, I think it was eBay's European sales platform. I think it was something he was asking advice. Has anyone tried it? I think it's eBay trying to model Amazon, which is not really surprising. They've tried a few versions of different things. What does it say here? I'm not sure if this is new or just new for me, but I logged into eBay account and I've been invited to join the European Sales Booster program. Basically, they translate your eBay listings into local language, or German, French, Italian, and Spanish. That could be a minefield to begin with if someone's actually translating it for you. Anyway, I thought it would give it a go and see whether it does improve sales. So Andy, who is a really cool guy, I really like Andy Raid, he's actually had some experience here, and he said, I used this feature about a year ago. From my own personal experience, I didn't think it helped sales. The main problem I found is that it duplicates your listing. So, for example, you create your listing as normal on the UK side, but it creates copies on the other countries, and they all show up in your inventory. Now, at the time, he had around 700 listings and found it very difficult to keep track of everything. Spoke to one eBay rep, and they didn't offer any solutions. So yeah, that's that. I can imagine if they create a whole new listing for every single one of your listings, that could get very confusing, I must admit. But it's interesting how eBay are. This is just one thing that sounds very familiar. That sounds like they're sort of modeling Amazon. They're also, I've heard they've been trialing like a similar FBA system where they're offering an opportunity for you to send your products over to them, and they'll send them on your behalf. So I wonder whether eBay is trying to get in that direction, and whether they're going to try and chase Amazon, or whether they'll remain doing their own thing. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Well, I think sometimes, for eBay, their main competitor being Amazon, I think sometimes it's like, oh, well, we're not going to just copy Amazon. We're not going to do that. We're going to do our own thing. But it comes to there's a time where you've got to concede that this is the way to grow your business. And I think Amazon, you cannot deny, Amazon have paved the way. They've changed the game in terms of FBA. They've changed this is why Amazon have done what they've done. And Apple, for example, it's about when a company innovates and changes the way things work. Like, for so long it was eBay, like anybody can just sell stuff and then just ship it. Amazon came in and goes, well, hang on a minute, how about you ship everything to us and we will take care of everything else? That's revolutionary. That changed the game for everybody. And then from eBay's point of view, they've maybe gone, do you know what? I want to keep doing what we're doing. It's not better than what we're doing. But then it comes to a time where you're thinking, oh, they're growing some more. They're growing some more. They're doing really, really well. They're popping up these massive fulfillment centers. They're building, they're taking over the world. Somebody on eBay must have simply said, we need to do fulfilled by eBay here because it's the right thing to do. And it goes back to reinventing the wheel. Like, if the wheel works, then just do the wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think eBay have definitely been caught napping by Amazon. I think they've definitely sat back on their heels for a number of years. I don't think they've treated their sellers particularly well. It's got better, but it's not ideal by a long way. And yeah, since I think there's been a real exodus from eBay with a lot of eBay sellers now doing the majority of their work on Amazon, and I think they've felt that. And yeah, I definitely think someone's had to have that meeting where they've gone, are doing our own things not work, guys. Maybe it's time to start doing what Amazon are doing. And yeah, it must be hard for them to concede that and say, well, yeah, this looks like the new way of working. How are we going to explore those options? But ultimately they're always going to be chasing behind because Amazon have got like a 5-year head start on them and an entire UK, European and US fulfillment system set up in place. So to try and get back on track with that is going to be very difficult.
It's going to take time. Of course it's going to take time, but I think I guess a lesson for us guys, what does it mean for us on the our level? It probably means that, if somebody's doing something in a way that's working, so I guess the best way I can say in our case is wholesale. Okay, so last year I went to your FBA Academy and it was a fantastic day, and I learned so much from yourself, Andy, about how to build relationship with wholesalers, go to a trade show, get to work with people, get to talk to people. That it's like me being the eBay and going, and now I'm going to do my own thing here. I'm going to continue doing my own thing, but I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm learning from somebody that's doing it and having success on it. So I'm going to do what you've told me to do, and I'm going to go do that, and then it works. And that's how it applies to us. I think that's why you got to find somebody or something that you trust. If you trust me and Andy, and Andy says, get yourself into a trade show, that's where you're going to build relationships. That's where you take that action and go, do you know what? I'm going to go to the next trade show and see how it goes. If it don't work out for you, nothing's lost. And that's really how everybody grows at our level, I think. Yeah,
for sure. Excellent. Well, Jonathan just had a quick question about QuickBooks. Do you use QuickBooks, Kev?
I'm actually moving over to QuickBooks. I'm using Sage 1 at the minute. I'm going through this transitional period as we speak.
Okay, that's interesting. It says, can I use QuickBooks in place of keeping an accounts book, retrospectively photographing invoices and receipts as I listen to this? Tax at this time of year in January is always on the forefront of people's minds. The forums are full of people asking tax questions as we're getting closer to the end of the point where you actually, the deadline of actually submitting your tax and paying for it, which is the more uncomfortable part of that whole thing. But I don't use QuickBooks, so I can't say whether they're good or bad. But I imagine, what was the decision to move over to QuickBooks, Kez? Was it your accountant? What makes you want to go and use them over Sage?
So a couple of things. So, well, number one, in terms of, I highly recommend everybody to take advantage of these online-based accounting softwares or websites, whatever you want to call them, Sage 1, QuickBooks, because they make things a lot easier. And I think I actually got a letter by April this year, like the VAT and things. It's all going digital. It's all going. You've got to submit things digital. And before I started with Sage 1, I used to do a lot, obviously spreadsheet based and all the documentation and things. But why Sage 1 and QuickBooks is good is it allows you to link your bank accounts and credit cards and all the money that you've got. So any transaction that comes in needs to be assigned by you. You go on in and you say, well, what was this? And you assign it to stock. You can put attachments in. You can upload your invoices. You can do all these things to different transactions. And that's where reporting comes in really well, because like obviously it gathers all this information. You can see your outgoings, your incomings. You can see how much you've spent there. You can see how much you've spent there. And another good thing about these online-based sort of accounting tools is it allows you to organize your business in different ways. So it allows you to do what they call like chart of accounts, which is different codes for different things. So if you maybe have a wholesale business and you want to track the accounts of your wholesale business separately to maybe your, I don't know, your online arbitrage business or your eBay business or whatever, you can start to build your accounts how you ultimately want to see them. So, you know, you can go in and say, well, how much money have I spent on electricity this year? Or how much money have I spent on virtual assistants this year? And that's all really, really powerful stuff for us as business owners. Yeah. In terms of going over to QuickBooks, there's a number of functionalities in QuickBooks that you don't have in Sage. And I don't have them all listed on me right now. This was last year. One of the big moves I did in 2018 is I actually hired I've got a financial VA now. I've got a financial manager that looks after, and I've outsourced a lot of the financial management, the tax preparation, and all the rest of it. And he's very, very highly skilled with QuickBooks. So, you know, it's a slow process, but they're very inexpensive. They cost like £10, I think, and I think you get a lot of value for your money for that amount.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something I would say as a tip. I personally use Cashflow as a software to keep track of my accounts. I've found it quite useful, but the point you were saying about the chartered accounts, when I first started, it's quite an open media, so you can do whatever way you want it. But I first started creating codes for just things like stock and being very generic and having just a few things. But as time went on, I realized that it would make much more sense having wholesale stock, online arbitrage stock, you know, and just breaking it down even more. And rather than just having office expenses and things like that, you can have, as you say, electricity, and you can have I don't know, office rent and warehouse rent, and you can have this, and you can really break it down. So then at the end of the year, you get a far more useful set of accounts that you can look back and say, okay, I spent this much on this, I spent this much on this, and I spent this much on this type of stock, and so on and so forth. So it really makes sense to use a software where you can create your own codes in your charter accounts like that for that reason. And yes, I learned that from experience and going through and saying, okay, actually this might be useful to know. So I'm going to take the time to create some more detailed codes for that reason. So yeah, I would definitely recommend any of those top softwares. I imagine are pretty decent functionality. I've linked my business bank account with it as well, so that pulls that in. Also my PayPal accounts, which is really useful as well. That can bring all those sales in as well from there. So yeah, it makes such a time saver, and it makes assembling your bookkeeping a lot easier, and something you can train other people to do as well. If you have a separate bookkeeper that works for you, then all these sort of softwares, especially the things like QuickBooks and Sage, a lot of people are experienced with that. So yeah, definitely worth thinking about, Jonathan, if you're looking into it. If you're going to choose one, you may as well choose one of the top ones for two reasons. Firstly, they're probably going to be pretty good, and secondly, other people will be experienced with them. So if you want to outsource that later on down the line, it's going to be much easier to outsource QuickBooks bookkeeping, because someone will be able to just plug straight in, know exactly how it works, probably know more than you how it works, and be able to make that software work to the best of its ability. So yeah, I would say 100%. Yeah, that's definitely something to do. Get the invoices and receipts digitally scanned and or photographing it, however you're doing it. Keep on top of it is my thing, because I hate tax with a passion. I try and assign as many other people other than myself to deal with tax because I hate it. And but keep on top of it is the important thing. If you put it off and say, oh, I don't want to deal with that, it just it doesn't go away. So yeah, deal with it. and attack it. And if you don't know enough about it, then probably a good idea to learn a bit more, because although it's the driest, most boring subject on the planet, we've all got to use it as entrepreneurs. We've all got to understand it. So learn a little bit about it, because ultimately, if you want to deal with an accountant, they're going to be talking to you in accountant language, and you kind of have to understand what they're on about. Because I mean, you could just say, sort my tax out, but
don't ever do that.
You're leaving yourself open to if they make a mistake and you're just saying you sort it out, then it's still your responsibility. It's your tax ultimately, and you still have to pay the bill if they get it wrong. Just
to emphasize that point there. The one of the best things that I got told, and I don't know who told me this, I'm not entirely sure who said this to me, but accountants, they work for the government. They don't work for you, they work for the government. Yeah. When they become chartered accountants, and this is, my own opinion, they're there to obviously make you absolutely, you've got to be, legally, you've got to make sure that you're paying what you're legally due to pay. But as you know, there are things that, for example, that maybe your accountant don't even know about your business. Like your accountant may not know that, I don't know, like some items are reduced VAT, for example. And sure. Your accountant may not know specific things. So if you just go sort my tax out, they're just going to go, okay, I do this, do that, do this. And then they're going to go, you owe £20,000, and you just go, oh crap, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so it is important to know your business. And a good point on the other people know these, I guess, the top sort of softwares out there or websites. You go onto somewhere like Upwork, one of the skills that you can actually, when you put in a post out, you can actually put on there QuickBooks. You can put on there Sage 1, and people will have it in their own titles. Whoever applies and things, it'll be like expert in QuickBooks and Sage 1. And one of the best things that we can do as time goes on, as you start to make money in your business, because ultimately this is what this is all about, building your business. Your job as a business owner is really trying to hire people that are smarter than you, bring assets to you. So when I was looking for, because I was doing exactly the same as many people do, it was getting towards the end of the 3 months, 2 months had gone past, and I'm like, right, I've got to do my VAT return next month. And it's just piling up and piling up and piling up. And then it's like, right, I've got to work on it. I was like, do you know what? I need to get somebody in. I need to get somebody in who, and a lot of the times we put things off. So when I first got onto Sage 1, I was like, what is this Sage 1? What is this telling me? I'm terrified of it. I'll not log in and just leave it, But yeah. It's good to get somebody in and goes, they know Sage 1. They can tell you things about Sage 1 or QuickBooks that you maybe don't know. And then you say to them, like, I need to learn this Sage 1, and they might put it in terms, because they're working for you, they might put it in terms that's different from an accountant, because accountants, they have a different language for sure.
They definitely do. They're a different breed of people, to be honest with you. They are. There's Homo sapiens, and then there's accountants, I'm sure. They're just genetically different. But after years, me and my accountant are on some sort of understanding. But he generally sits on the fence and doesn't commit to anything, and I generally ask him loads of questions. That's generally our relationship. Hey, I'm sure there's some really good normal human beings that are also accountants, but it is a difficult subject, and some people, I mean, you're more of a numbers man, Kev, so it probably comes more naturally to you to doing reports and understanding the data flow and things like that. But I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that will struggle with that, will not struggle with building businesses, growing businesses, but when it comes to dealing with throwing around figures and dealing with tax, and it's not a logical thing, because you don't know what you don't know with tax. There's a lot of things that are just this way because that's it. And if no one tells you that, then you don't know. We've all, I certainly had over the years some tax blunders where, I've paid more tax than I should have. I wish it was the other way around, but usually,
it's not set up that way, Andy.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So, yes, if there's a mistake, it's generally, detrimental to you. But yeah, that's the way you learn, and you don't forget it again the second time if you've paid thousands of pounds more tax because you didn't understand that, that some things have different tax ratings. And who tells you about that? Your accountant definitely doesn't most of the time until you ask him a direct question. Oh, yeah, that's the case. It's like, why didn't you bloody tell me? Anyway,
a lot. I mean, you make a really good point. I mean, a lot of the times you may feel like the way the tax system's set up, it's set up for you to be at your loss. Like the government are never going to set it up so they're at their loss. They would rather take more money or take more money than not get enough of it. Because obviously that's the way it works, and I don't blame them for that. But sometimes it's good to become sometimes, like, if it costs you £50 to have somebody look over stuff who's going to give you some solid advice on what to do or what to look at and this, that, and the other. For that £50, they may actually end up saving you £2,000, £3,000, £4,000. Do you know what I mean? Just because somebody knows what they're looking at.
Exactly.
So, it's maybe something for people to consider in 2019, getting somebody in. And you can do this inexpensively now. I think, it still blows me away to this day that, that my financial VA that I've got, because Sage One it's all virtual. They can log on. They've got their own users and everything. It blows me away on how you can get these really highly skilled people for a small amount of money, relatively.
Yeah, absolutely. Even here, in our country, you can probably, if you ask around, there's probably someone, a friend of a friend, whose mum does bookkeeping or something, and who was a fully trained bookkeeper and knows QuickBooks and Oracle and Sage and all these things. And maybe they're a mum now, and maybe they'll charge £10 an hour to do your books, and it may only take a couple of hours a month to do your books, but she will know the best way to deal with this software, how you can get the most of it. So you might be able to get someone pop around your house and speak to you about it and give you some advice. And as you say, these people are trained to know how to organize books and to organize tax. So definitely, I would definitely agree with that. If you're in that position and it's giving you some anxiety and some stress, get some help, because some people, if you reach out for help, they'll take the pressure off so much more when they can say, well, if you just do this, this, and this, then you're on top of it, and it's not that difficult. And ultimately, it isn't that difficult, but it's a bit of an uphill battle to get to that point when it's not difficult. But yeah,
and just to add on that point that you've just mentioned, I think that's the real return on investment. It's that feeling of like, God, I've got to do this. And you're carrying that around with you for so long. You're like, I've still got to do this. I've still got to do this. And because that's going to affect you, what you do in that day and then the next day, and how your mind is actually focused on growing your business, because you always think, oh, I've got that bit to do as well. So that's definitely something somewhere to consider outsourcing this year if you're at that stage.
I would definitely agree with that. Do yourself a favor. Find someone, even if it's just locally, to help you, just to give you some advice, even if it's just temporarily to help you put something into place, because you say carrying around that stress and that anxiety is not worth it, and it's probably hindering you from doing other things, as Kev says. So I've definitely had that in the past and put it off, and it's natural if you don't understand all of it and it's a bit of a stress, then you kind of put it off to the next day and to the next day until a deadline looms, and then you just have to deal with it. And it's not much fun. So do yourself a favor, tackle it head on, and then you'll probably go, oh, well, that's quite straightforward. Now you've explained to him like that and you've shown it to me. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I can get on with it. I can move on with my life. So definitely some good advice there, Kev. Alrighty, so we're over the hour again. How quickly has that happened?
I know, crazy.
It always goes quick. Anyway, we covered some interesting subjects today. Actually, I've enjoyed it. Anything you want to talk about before we wrap it up this evening, Kev?
And no, I think really it's. I'd love to know over the next sort of week what everybody's goals and things are, what everybody's ideas are for 2019, big, small. Whether you're starting out on Amazon, whether you're starting in eBay, whether you're going to look at Facebook Marketplace, whether you're ambitious to quit your job, or you want to get into a warehouse, or whatever your goals are, big, small. It'd just be a great, just a great conversation next week, really, on what everybody wants to do.
Absolutely, sounds like sounds like a good plan. And also, obviously, as always, if you've got any questions, hit us up in the comments below the YouTube video if that's where you're watching it, on the Reseller Show Facebook group, and any way you like, really. Any way you can get in touch with us. We're happy to hear your questions and discuss it on the show. And you never know where we end up with them. So that's always the fun thing about this format. But with that said, let's wrap it up here and now, Kev. Thank you very much for watching, listening, and whatever you're doing. And take care. Have a great week this week. Hope you sell lots. And until next Monday at 7 p.m., see you later.
And one final thing, just as we end, we are potentially going to be doing the first the second Reseller Show live next month in February. But we may talk about that a little bit next week. So exciting times. Yeah. Take care.
All right, guys. Laters.
Welcome to the Reseller Show with your hosts, Andy Lawrence and Kevin Blackburn.